Upadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachane Vivasesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarane. And we receive Vedic knowledge, perfect Vedic knowledge from Srila Prabhupada, but are we letting it enlighten us? Well, we have to pray for that also. So, Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshus Un Militanjena Asmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Hare Krishna. So, I would like to ask this, you call it Youth Forum? Wonderful Youth Forum. Oh, at some point, if any of the ladies were here last night that asked questions, just someone tell me if they actually are here. Otherwise, what I like to do when I'm having a meeting about Srila Prabhupada is give everyone an opportunity to think about what they'd like to know about Srila Prabhupada. And it could be anything about him that I may know of, I'll comment on or answer questions about or describe things that happened. But this will only work if you have a question that you wondered. And since you're, as I was told, university devotees, thinkers, presumably, so you must have thought about Prabhupada ever since you heard about him and saw his books. So you must have some questions about Srila Prabhupada, where he comes from, who he is, what he's done, anything. So please, anyone with a question or, question, raise your hand. And we're going to get to as many questions as we can. I just want to hear them all first. What do we have a microphone that can go around? Thank you. Is it okay I speak in English, or do you need translator? Who needs translator? Okay, good. It takes twice as long. You speak in English, then someone has to repeat it. So, okay, your question. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna back. So, it is said that no material circumstances can get devotional service. Wait, I think the mic is too close. Yeah, say it again. It is said in the NOD that no kind of material circumstances can get devotional service. No kind of material circumstance affects pure devotional service. Yeah, so during the time of Srila Prabhupada, everyone, left, right, and center, every small child and youth was becoming a devotee very fast, just by the association of Srila Prabhupada. I need help understanding. I have wonderful hearing aids. One of them broke, so I'm not wearing them.
He's telling that at the time of Prabhupada,
Yes,
you see that preaching was very fast.
preaching was very fast.
They used to come, get inspired, and dedicate them.
Every youth and every child in the association of Srila Prabhupada becoming a devotee very quickly. It was like amazing just by the contact of Srila Prabhupada, everyone was transforming into a devotee. But once Prabhupada disappeared from this material world, it started dwindling away. Even then it was difficult for new devotees to form, and the old devotees also started dwindling away. So the association of pure devotee is so important. So, what I would like to know, as it is said that no material circumstances can check pure devotional service, why, after Prabhupada's disappearance, with the circumstances, the devotees started moving away, or it was very difficult to have many devotees. As during Prabhupada, devotees were so many devotees were coming so quickly. Pure devotional service was happening in the association of Prabhupada so fast.
Okay, let me try to understand this question. That after Srila Prabhupada departed from our vision, you're asking about something that did or did not happen, which is what is it specific? What's it, in one sentence? His question.
Preaching at the time of Prabhupada was
Yeah.
very fast
Yes.
and very effective.
Yes.
He's telling that after Prabhupada, it seems that it has reduced. Why?
It is. Wait. It seems that it is what?
It has become a little slower than.
Oh, is that what you perceive? That's very interesting. Okay. That's a question we'll answer. And who else had their hand up? Yes? Where's the mic? Oh, okay. Go ahead. Since you got the mic, go ahead. But then the mic needs to move around. Okay, what's your question?
What was your perspective towards Srila Prabhupada when you first met him?
What when I first met Prabhupada? Help me.
How was your understanding before meeting? How you met Prabhupada?
Before meeting Prabhupada, you just said?
How was your perspective?
He's asking when I met Prabhupada. First time? That's different than before. What was my perspective before?
He said perspective.
You want to know what I saw or felt when I first met Prabhupada? Okay.
What made you believe in him?
And what made me believe in him? Yes, that's a very good question. Okay. Now, I saw some hands here. Hare Krishna.
So, in today's morning class, the purport Srila Prabhupada said, or reception is a total realization. For the pure devotee, word of the pure devotee is the heart of the living entities.
Yeah, the purport said, and the person he asked for clarification from is not accurate. The purport was written accurately that the pure devotees sound, thank you, sound which he carries with him from the spiritual plane, not the material plane. When they enter your ear, they have an effective, like a medical effect. Like if you were sick, it's like an injection of a perfect vaccine and you get well right away. That's what the purport said. So what's your question?
My question is that pure devotee is like Prabhupada has already given.
Why is this?
Prabhupada has already given the purpose. So like that. But on what basis it will depend that one will take it as a guidance to whatever the Prabhupada is saying. Or like that. In Bhagavad Gita Krishna tells in 18th chapter that one who listens with faith and without envy. So he will take that message much seriously. So like that. So I want to know that how one can take this message seriously and what is the meaning of without envy when Krishna is saying here.
Okay, I need help because I don't have my hearing. He wants to know.
That Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita.
You can say it loud.
Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita that those who are without any envy.
Well, Krishna says without envy. Krishna says
that without envy, such I'll be known.
yes, those who are without envy, Krishna says, I can be known. Yes.
And he's asking that how we can put ourselves in that situation. Because we are not. No.
That is a wonderful question. Especially since Krishna said the reason everyone comes into this material universe. By the way, do you know when you came into this universe? You don't remember. Ah. Well, according to Vedic calculation, the secondary creator, because Krishna is the primary creator, but the secondary creator of each universe is Lord Brahma. And he has a very long lifespan. And right now, approximately, he's halfway through his life. He lives 100 years of his year. His year is unimaginable to us relative to our time. He's 50, half through his life. So his whole life is more than 350 trillion Earth years, which is a number we can't imagine. I mean, we can see it on paper, we can do a little math. We have no idea what that is. How could we possibly relate to 10,000 years? We can't. We have trouble relating to yesterday. Anyway, so when did you come into this universe? Well, Brahma is halfway through his life. That means about 150 trillion years ago is when every one of us in this room came into the universe. Because we all come in at the beginning of the universe. And the universe is about 150 trillion years old so far. What in the world could have brought us here and kept us here for that incalculable, almost, and it's like an endless period of time? Well, Krishna says it's envy that brought every one of us here. So that is an excellent question. How do we deal with envy? Since it's what caused us to be here. It's what's keeping us all here. You know, the universe has another 150 trillion years to go. If we don't solve this problem of envy, we have a very, 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 very long future of material life ahead of us. So we have to learn how to solve it. A great question. Okay, so the first question was,
How at the previous when Prabhupada was there personally?
oh yeah, what's happened since he disappeared? It seems things have got slowly moving as opposed to rapidly moving. The second question was, what was my impression when I first met Prabhupada, and why would I believe in him? Now we have this third question about, well, if we're under the spell of envy, and we have to get free from envy to know Krishna, how do we do that? Obviously, it's very strong since it's kept us here for 150 trillion years. You realize how strong that must be? You know any force that strong? I don't. Okay, next. Any other questions on this side? Yes?
So, really, I have two questions. So, first question is that Prabhupada says that Gita is like graduation.
He said what?
Gita is like a graduation.
Gita is a
Bhagavad
graduate
Gita.
study.
Gita study is graduation?
Bhagavad Gita study is like a graduation. Bhagavatam study
Really?
is
Wait. Graduation from what?
like comparison with Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay.
Like Bhagavad Gita study is like a graduation. Srimad Bhagavatam study is like a post graduation. And Chaitanya Charitamrita study is like a PhD. So my question is here.
Okay, so you're basically describing, even though the words might differ from the way I think of it, different gradations. Bhagavad Gita is the beginning of all spiritual knowledge. Then you graduate to the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then you can get to the postgraduate level of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, so now that you've described those different levels, what's the question?
So my question is, Prabhuji, like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakurji says that without reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, we cannot understand Srimad Bhagavatam.
Where did you hear that?
Like I have heard in various lectures of ISKCON devotees.
You from devotees.
Yes.
Okay. So you want to know if we have to read Chaitanya Charitamrita?
First or Srimad Bhagavatam, because you printing Prabhupada has been printing this nectaring Srimad Bhagavatam Chaitanya Charitamrita. Because I am reading Srimad Bhagavatam, I am second canto, so it's very deep philosophy, like everything how is it linking to Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Chaitanya Charitamrita is like more stories, and it is said that Chaitanya Charitamrita is like a mind of Krishna, and Srimad Bhagavatam is like a character, and Gita is the Vani of Lord Krishna. This is my first question. So, how should we approach? And
I understand your question. Are you writing down these questions? If you don't mind. We had the first question about did things slow down after Prabhupada's disappearance? We had the second question, what was the impression of Prabhupada and why would you have faith when you met him? Third question was how in the world of envy do we cut envy out of us, our consciousness? And now this fourth question is different things are said about which books of great spiritual knowledge we should study in what order. Do we need one to get to the understanding of the other, and so on? Okay, I understand.
And this is last question from my side. This is about Sankirtan, like we say, like Sankirtan Yajna. That is the congregational chanting of Hare Krishna Mantra, like even in 6 Ashtakam we read. So I have read that small Prabhupada Lila book. So I don't remember either I am not read or I don't remember. Like book distribution is also mentioned as Sankirtan Yajna. Is it like that? By doing book distribution, they will come to Sankirtan Yajna. They will also chant Hare Krishna Mantra.
Okay, I understand. What is the difference between the traditional Hare Nama Sankirtan Yajna and book distribution? Is it part of that? Does it lead to that? Does it grow out of that? Okay.
Because now
I understand the question.
First party also we say Sankirtan first party.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, you had a question? Okay, but you need the mic. And then we're going to ask them, and then we're going to ask the Vaishnavas.
My question is that, it's like if you read Prabhupada in Amrit, we see that all the devotees, like all disciples of Prabhupada, they had that intimate relationship with Prabhupada. And that innocence was there. It was like devotees. They were not duplicit while dealing with Prabhupada. They were.
Wait, I just want to understand. You're saying every devotee of Prabhupada, disciples, they had their own unique relationship with Prabhupada? So then the next part of your question is what?
They have that innocence.
And what?
When we see proper disciples,
Yes.
we see first quality that they are very innocently dedicated to Prabhupada. They are very innocent.
Is
While
that how you
receiving-
think of it?
receiving
Their
knowledge.
their intense, unalloyed dedication to Prabhupada seems innocent. Well, he used the word innocent.
Like a child, they were very, very much attracted to Prabhupada and they were ready to do anything what Prabhupada says.
Yes, that's not very innocent, but okay. So then what's the question?
Yes, they were remaining the heart. But we are not able to do this all these things at all. We don't have that innocence or we don't have that how to develop that.
So you're saying because based on your material experience in kala, in time, and in your body, you weren't here when Prabhupada walked the earth to have met him and surrendered to him. So you're not seeing or feeling what the first disciples saw, or felt. Is that your question?
Yes, there's a little bit of that also. And along with that, let me say, while dealing with our seniors, we don't, like, we are implicit while dealing with them. We show, like, our other face only. We are not, like, we are not putting ourselves, like, we are putting ourselves in front of a mirror. Like,
God, do I need my hearing aids? No, I'm so sorry. He is going to repeat your questions into my ear.
Yeah. He's asking that Prabhupada's disciples, they had 100% faith in Prabhupada and they followed him.
Okay.
Now, we don't have that much faith in our authorities and we.
Because they're not Prabhupada,
Mhm.
of course. Okay.
And
But there's a big but coming when I get to answer your question.
so,
There's a very good, excellent but coming.
so we are not so open to accept and follow Krishna consciousness like Prabhupada disciples.
Okay, I understand. So now, first of all, the Vaishnavis that are here, any of you were here yesterday? Did two of you? Did you ask questions? Three of you. Did any of you ask questions yesterday? Which one? Because I remembered three questions, but which one was yours? Wait, you need the mic or I can't hear. Hare Krishna.
So the question was, how did Prabhupada influence happiness?
Oh, yes, the hippie question. How did Srila Prabhupada, historically, there was an entire generation of young people around the world that were called hippies. How did Prabhupada turn these hippies into happies? That's your question. Okay, great question. Okay, now, just a minute. Any other questions from the Madhajis, Vaishnavis? Not necessarily from yesterday. You have any other questions? Or just that one? Your hand is up. You need the mic. You're writing that down, right?
My question is, how Prabhupada want a woman to live Krishna consciously?
How Prabhupada what?
A woman to live Krishna consciously.
How Mataji should practice Krishna consciousness? How was Prabhupada's perspective?
How Vaishnavis should practice Krishna consciousness? I think that's an excellent question. Since you make up half the population of the humanity. It's a very good question. Okay. Any other Madhajis or Vaishnavis? Okay. Now, wait a minute. How many questions we have so far? I'm glad that lady is not here about the take to the Charitamrita. That would take up the whole night. Okay. So we have two questions from the Vaishnavis. And how many questions so far from the six altogether, or six just from this? 6 plus 2. Okay. Dear Prabhus, I'm going to try. So far, there's 8 questions. I'm going to try to go through them in a way that's satisfying and thoughtful and accurate, and most important, spiritual. And then, if we have time, don't forget your questions. We'll ask for more.
We did not hear you properly. We did not hear you properly.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. What's wrong with this? Hare Krishna. Is that better? So I wasn't speaking into it. Okay. Okay. So I promised yesterday, since the whole evening was with this side of the room, that I would start with that side of the room. So we only have 2 questions from that side. One of them is a repeat from last night. Okay. Have you actually ever heard of this term or description for an entire worldwide population of people between the age of, let's say, 15 up to maybe 27, starting in the 1960s, called hippies? Have you Ever? Anyone here know that? Have you even heard that phrase, that designation? Okay, you haven't. So this is like in historical time analysis. During the 1930s, okay, of the world, there was total global economic collapse. They call it in my country, they call it in the West, the Great Depression. Out of that time, that misery, oh, the material world has got miseries? Well, what a surprise. It's like being in an ocean. Could you ever count how many waves there are? No. Really? That's how many miseries there are. And do the waves keep coming? And do they ever stop coming? Well, that's the ocean of the material world. So, anyway, I'm getting to the hippie question. So, in the 1920s and early 30s, everything shifted from insane, wild wealth and misuse of money for sense gratification to total collapse of the economy. People were starving, there were no jobs, nobody knew what to do. So during that time, that's a time of my birth father and my birth mother. They lived in that time, and there were two designations for young people going through that. The first one was how to get out. They were looking into socialism, socialists. They wanted to be socialists and have everything equal for everybody. And the second group of young people trying to figure out a way out was called the fascists. And there were fascists in Spain, in Italy, in Germany, and something similar in Japan. And they believed in absolute dictatorship and control over everyone to get people out of this. So, anyway, different times in history, young people get these labels. So now you fast forward to the world of the 1960s. That's the world when Prabhupada arrived in the West. The young people were living through what they call a Cold War between the Empire of America and the Empire of the Soviet Union, the USSR. These were giant empires, and they were enemies. They just had wars through proxy countries instead of direct. The reason they didn't do direct wars because they had huge arsenals of nuclear weapons. Okay, so everyone born in that era, growing up in that era, at any moment you think your life could end from nuclear war. You really did believe that. When I was in grade school, they had this wonderful drill for the 10-year-olds. Oh, we're now going to practice what happens if there's a nuclear attack. All the children, please get up, kneel down, and crawl under your desk. I did that as a kid. And that was supposed to save me from a nuclear blast, from the amazing heat and blast and shattered glass. I was going to be safe by crawling under it. So everyone feared that they were going to die in the 60s from this Cold War turning into another war. And then America did something so stupid. They said, we have to stop any further countries becoming communist, influenced by the Soviet Union. And we'll go to war with those countries, not with Russia directly. And so they entered this ridiculous war in this place called Vietnam. So the young people were looking at this, And the government of America said, this is not a voluntary army anymore. Every person, 17, every boy 17 years old gets a card with a number on it. Selective service draft card. I got one, everyone got one. And they have this lottery machine. If your number comes up, they send you to Vietnam. Now, the other thing that was going on in America at this same time was there was this great white supremacy going on where people of color had no equal rights, especially people from African origins. And they were called Negroes, they were called Black Americans, but they did not have equal rights. And so different leaders in the Black community arose to start marches, some violent, some peaceful, to try to ask for equal rights. Because we're Americans, why aren't we treated as Americans? So they called this the Civil Rights Movement, and all the other people in America who were revolting, they called it the anti-war movement. And collectively, almost everyone in the anti-war movement became a hippie. So what does that word mean? It means we reject this society, the way they govern. We reject their policies. We agree there's racism. We agree with so many things. So we're going to revolt peacefully. How are we going to revolt peacefully? Well, the first thing we're going to do is take drugs. This was like a fundamental principle of the hippie movement, not gross drugs that today they have. These are drugs specifically affecting the mind. And the propaganda was, oh, you take this drug, it will open your mind. It will expand your mind. You may even get yogic powers from these drugs. That's what they thought. Then, to distinguish themselves from people who were not revolting, they grew out, all the men grew out their hair the way women have long hair. Literally long hair. You couldn't believe it. Looked like women. Then the third thing about the hippies is they believe that their new way of life is going to be ushered in through sounds. Sounds, very perceptive, but the wrong sounds. This was the beginning of the rock and roll bands of the world. The Beatles, the Rolling Stones, they had all these crazy groups. And they had huge concerts, overnight concerts, days and days where you slept right there in the concert listening to these sounds. And you thought between the sounds and these mind-expanding drugs, you were going to become liberated. So that, in a nutshell, is the hippie movement. And at the end, it was all about a different definition of sense enjoyment. Their idea of liberation was not the Vedic concept of liberation. It was just more power to have sense enjoyment through the mind. Anyway, into that world, Srila Prabhupada arrived. And he sees the sons and daughters of wealthy people, well-off people in America, rejecting their families, rejecting the capitalistic way of life, and revolting against it and becoming hippies, and also joining this nonviolent civil rights movement, which this Martin Luther King preacher was trying to model after what Mahatma Gandhi did. So Prabhupada comes into that world, and he has to get all of them out of the bodily concept. How are you going to get the blacks out of the bodily concept? Their entire movement is about the bodily concept. I'm black. You're not treating me like I'm a white. So I need, so Prabhupada's seeing this intense bodily conception among the black population. But among the white population, Prabhupada is seeing they are so convinced that their bodily concept is going to be based on artificial drugs powering up different parts of their mind so that they can have much greater sex and much greater sense gratification. They coined a phrase in the hippie era, terrible phrase, called free sex. Free sex means they don't wait to be married, and they don't wait to just have one sex partner. Free sex meant literally like animals, free sex. And the women were going along with it, the boys were going along with it. That's the hippie movement. So Prabhupada has to come into that world, and he's going to teach people, okay, I'm going to teach you the truth about who you are. You're not the body, how you can see spiritually, but you have to give up sex. But you have to give up drugs. But you have to give up thinking you're black. You have to give up your long hair. All these things. So how did Prabhupada change that entire world of young people from hippies? It wasn't just America. They were all over Europe. They were in England, everywhere. How did Prabhupada change them from hippies to, you said happies? That means from hippies in the bodily concept, civil rights people in the bodily concept, into happies means I'm not the body. He's giving me a way to experience I am something different from my body and from my mind. And that's who I am. And that's nature, is to be always happy. So how did Prabhupada do that? Well, first of all, Prabhupada is not someone born in the normal way. Prabhupada is a soul sent into the universe on a mission. Who sent Prabhupada? Besides his Guru Maharaj, who is an assistant to the gopis of Vrindavan. Who else sent Srila Prabhupada to come into this universe? Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the entire Panchatattva. So when they sent Prabhupada, in him was these divine energies, these divine potencies. He carried these potencies from Lord Chaitanya. How is that possible? Well, Prabhupada gives an example. If there is an electric power plant and you connect yourself with a wire to that electrical generator, electricity is coming through the wire, and if you touch it, the electric current goes into you. So the spiritual current of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered into Prabhupada and was always like an electrical current flowing in Prabhupada. That's amazing. And the electrical current from his guru of Gopi Bab and Madhurya Ras and all the other rases of Vrindavan, that was a current, a never-ending like electrical charge into Prabhupada, and it was always charging him. So this person comes into the universe and at the appropriate time reveals himself and comes to the West with all these potencies. And he calls up to the spiritual world to bring down the pure, full, we don't have the words, names of Krishna and Radha and Lord Balaram. He calls for those names, which are Krishna himself, Radha herself, Balaram himself. What does it mean that Krishna himself? It means the whole spiritual world is with Krishna. All of Krishna's material and spiritual energies are always with Krishna. All of that's in the name Krishna. Prabhupada had the ability to bring it from the spiritual world through this universe has shells. These are very dense shells. He brings this sound through those shells, through the ether, through the space, through the air, through the different planetary systems, right to this amazing place in New York called 26 2nd Avenue. And it was a storefront that Prabhupada and his first followers rented. It had a big sign called Matchless Gifts. And from there, Prabhupada taught privately inside the store the Maha Mantra. And then one day, Prabhupada said, I want you to come and follow me. Now that you've been chanting this Maha Mantra, we're going to walk about 5 streets to a wonderful park called Tompkins Square Park. And we are now going to bring this Maha Mantra out of the temple and into the public. And we're doing it for free. And when the devotees were so nervous about this, but Prabhupada led them, they followed Prabhupada. He had his little kettle drum, they had some kartals. It was such ecstasy. I believe there was special ecstasy that Lord Chaitanya himself was sending to Prabhupada's original followers. I can't think of another explanation how they were so ecstatic and dancing and jumping. They have known Prabhupada for only a few months, and they're acting like they are the greatest, Mahatmas. Something special came down with that holy name from Lord Chaitanya to awaken them. And so with that, the holy name had now entered the earth's atmosphere. And certain times when a field is very, very, very dry and there's a fire, it can spread very quickly in a dry field. Well, the earth was totally dried up. And the fire of the holy names, which Prabhupada carried to this earth, spread everywhere, all over the earth. And all of a sudden, the hippies are hearing their favorite, idols, celebrities, singing Hare Krishna on their record albums. And they're having concerts with these famous celebrity music groups joining Prabhupada on stage for free, chanting with him. And there was a famous park, which was like the heart of this hippie movement out in San Francisco, in California. And in this park, Golden Gate Park, every day, tens and thousands of people would be in this park, and the devotees would be there chanting and giving out prasadam. And the news, it was spread like fire into their hearts the newspapers said Hare Krishna seems to be the religion of the hippie movement. That's what it looked like to reporters in the news, that they're all chanting. And what? They're giving up their drugs? And what? They're giving up their free sex? How could they be? Some of them are going to practice celibacy? The newspapers could not believe what was happening. When the holy name gave them such awakening and bliss, they were willing to pay the price. Okay, goodbye drugs. Pay the price. Goodbye flesh eating. Because Americans were all meat eaters. Most of them grew up in being meat eaters all over Europe, meat eaters. Goodbye killing animals. Goodbye drugs. And the hardest, goodbye sex, illicit sex. And the ecstasy of the holy name when Prabhupada was here was that powerful that these young hippies, they somehow agreed to give all these things up. So I don't know how else to explain it, but I was one of those hippies. When I was in my teenage years, 16, my whole school thought I was a hippie. 17, my whole school thought I'm so anti this government and the Vietnam War that I'm going to become a violent revolutionary with bombs and blow things up. If you ever saw my high school graduation and the thing people wrote under my picture, you wouldn't believe what they thought I would become. But instead, the holy name captured me. I was going to college, trying to figure out where I could find a spiritual master and a yoga teacher. And do I have to go to the Himalayas and live in a cave? And I was really searching. And one day, walking to my college classes, I heard the sound of kartals. I had to follow that sound. What is that sound? My soul jumped at that sound. And it led me to a small Harinam party on the streets of my city, which was Portland, Oregon. And so for the next month, basically, I would walk the city streets, so-called walking to class, but really waiting to hear the sounds of the kirtan, and cutting class, going to the kirtan. And that kirtan, which Prabhupada brought to this earth, while he was here, Lord Chaitanya was helping Prabhupada by making the kirtan instantly have effects on conditioned souls so that they could immediately wake up and start helping Prabhupada. It was like magic. That's what happened when Lord Chaitanya saw that Prabhupada gave up everything, got on a boat, had the massive heart attack, came to New York with 40 rupees, one of the most expensive cities in the world to live, so cold. He was living in a single room. It was broken into. His typewriter was stolen. His Bhagavad Gita manuscript was stolen. And Lord Chaitanya is watching this devotee, this great soul that he sent, go through all this. And then Lord Chaitanya said, I have to help him. I have to send him helpers. So I'll just wake them up. When they hear the holy name from Srila Prabhupada and his followers, they'll just wake up. Something special that Lord Chaitanya did so that Prabhupada can initially have a lot of followers. Very quickly, like you were noticing, yes, very quickly he had thousands and thousands of hippies turned into happies, as you call it. And, you know, if you're a devotee for 1 or 2 years and Prabhupada says, I now want you to go to, let's say, Switzerland. Never been to Switzerland. I want you to go there and start a Christian temple. I want you to go to France, start a Christian temple. You 6, I want you to go to London and start a Christian temple. Prabhupada is taking devotees that have been, they never heard of Krishna 2 years before, and he's sending them all over the world. He sent, I would like you to go to Nairobi in Africa. No. I would like you to go to Mexico City. I would like you to go to, he sent one of them to Brazil. I mean, all over the world. Canada, everywhere. They're like 2, 3-year-old devotees. They're like babies in Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada, they're so ecstatic in love with Prabhupada that when he said, go here, go there, and start a temple, they just picked up and went. And because they were carrying this potency, this energy, this electrical current from Prabhupada, they were successful. So, okay, Prabhupada landed in 65. He had his heart attacks on the boat, 66. Everything was crazy. Finally, at the end of 66, he rents this one storefront in New York. And 11 years later, he leaves the world. So in those 11 years, he made the Hare Krishna movement the religion of the whole generation of hippies. He opened more than 120 Krishna temples all over the world. He started having Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Ishopanishad, so many books being sold in quantities that are unimaginable. Can you imagine 10 years after Prabhupada arrives in America, that the American devotees are going to sell 1 million hardbound Bhagavad Gitas as it is to the American public in 1 year? 1 million. No one had ever printed 1 million of any book before. This was the biggest printing in the history of hardbound printing in America. 1 million at one time, and the devotees did. Where is how the potencies that Prabhupada carried and empowered his devotees with are just incredible. How do you capture the biggest celebrities on the planet that everyone adored, the Beatles, and turn them into devotees? At least one. It's just amazing what Prabhupada did. How, with all of this that he has to train thousands and thousands of devotees, go to all these different countries and meet the devotees who are just joining in all these different countries, meet professors and religious people and all kinds of government people from all over the world, build temples, sustain them, train everybody, and then it's not like he just decided to do this, but he's like the 7th Goswami. The 6 Goswamis are gopis. You understand? We all understand that they're gopis who came down to the earth to study the scriptures and present the highest truths in the mood of the gopi. Prabhupada's like the 7th gopi. Why do I say that? Because I watched Prabhupada go to bed at 10 o'clock and wake up at 12 midnight. For 10 years, I watched him do that. Sometimes, one time, I asked Prabhupada if I could be one of his traveling secretaries. He said yes. That was in January of 1977. And we were taking a nice train to different parts of India. And it had a sleeper car. And Prabhupada was on one bed in the sleeper car, and I was on the other bed in the same car with Prabhupada. So when I tell you I watched him take rest at 10 and wake up at 12, I saw this. And anyone who was Prabhupada's secretary saw this. How does someone give up sleep for 10 years? Is it even possible in the Kali Yuga that somebody can just give up sleeping? And when everyone else is asleep, enter into a state of divine, call it samadhi, divine communion with Krishna. So together, Krishna and Prabhupada are planning the words for his books. And 3-4 hours every morning, while everyone's sleeping, Prabhupada's writing a book a month, 400 pages of brilliant, perfect, pure bhakti translations, and even more amazing purports. You know, there was this one professor that came to visit Prabhupada. One time he was visiting in France. And he was a very well-known scholar in the biggest university in France, probably the Sorbonne. And he was an Indologist. And he met with Prabhupada. He saw Prabhupada's books coming out in French. He also read them in English. And after he met with Prabhupada, he spoke to the devotees outside of Prabhupada's room. And he said, you know, your spiritual master, your teacher, he's doing things with his translations that are very unusual. And the devotee said, what? And the professor said, he's adding words. I'm reading the Sanskrit, and your teacher is translating it and adding the word Krishna right in the text. And in the purport that's explaining the text, he's writing the whole Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and he's talking about Krishna in so many different ways. You don't get that from the text, the Sanskrit. So your guru is, and he's calling it as it is. This is very strange. So after the professor left, the devotees went back into Prabhupada's room and told Prabhupada what this professor had observed. And Prabhupada smiled like the sun and said, aha, yes, he has understood me. He understands that I am adding the necessary emphasis to my translations and purports, and don't ever change them, because these books are going to last for thousands and thousands of years. Before my books, there were so many hundreds of Bible, nobody ever became a devotee. Now my books are here. There's thousands, tens of thousands of devotees. Don't change them. He understood me. I am adding special emphasis. So that's a long way of explaining the potencies that Prabhupada carried to transform the hippies, the civil rights people, these young people that were open to searching for something better, into Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, willing to give up meat, give up drugs, which they were so attached to, and give up the free sex, which was being freely offered. That is so amazing that all of a sudden we're like celibate. Anyway, that's what Prabhupada did. That's the power he carried, like from the original powerhouse, power station, Krishna. It was in him. There was no separate interest between Prabhupada's interest and Lord Chaitanya's interest. So I know that was a long answer for your question, but you waited 2 days to hear the answer. Okay, the next Lady Vaishnav question was,
Krishna Prabhupada wanted Vaishnavis to practice.
oh, yes. What did he want of his daughter, his spiritual daughters? By the way, it didn't matter what your bodily age was, you were his spiritual daughter. And today, no matter what your bodily age, you are his spiritual granddaughter. So, how did Prabhupada want Vaishnavis to behave, especially when in Vedic culture, and we read in Srimad Bhagavatam especially, that women at all times were protected. They had different roles in society, but they certainly were not running businesses. They were not certainly running governmental agencies. They were certainly not Indira Gandhis and running governments. So the women had broken out of these stereotypes all over the world. And here's Prabhupada introducing Vedic culture. And should the women go, what do the women go back to? Well, Krishna describes the qualities of a chaste, perfect, pure lady devotee in the Bhagavad Gita. Wonderful, amazing qualities. If only we had those qualities, we'd become pure devotees. It can help those qualities that you're born with. The modes create your body and mind to be in this woman form. If you develop those qualities that Krishna mentions, you become pure devotees. But more important, Prabhupada faced tremendous criticism. How are you giving Diksha to a woman? Even in the Gaudiya Math, his godbrothers, what are you doing? You don't give Diksha to a woman. And Prabhupada said, I do. They're spirit souls. They're not women. You are in the bodily concept of life. You are caste Brahmins. All you see is Brahmins based on your body and your family heritage. You have no idea that these souls are so much greater than you. So, of course, I will give them Brahmin initiation and let them worship on the altar of the deities. Oh, no, you can't do that. All over India, they said, you can't do that. Even today in India, some people still can't get out of their caste consciousness, their bodily concept of life. Women cannot do this and do that, only men. No. How are you thinking you're a man? And then you say you're advanced. How are you thinking you're a man and you say you have knowledge? That's like the ABC first grade lesson of spiritual life. You're not a man. You're not a woman. You're a spirit inside a body. And you've been inside material bodies for 150 trillion years, rotating one body to another, to another. So why you say you're a man? Why you say you're Indian? Why do I say I'm American? Why does the cow say he's a cow? Why does the hog say he's a hog? This is the diluting potency of the material energies of Krishna. And Prabhupada came to awaken every soul to the truth. You are not your body. You're not. So Prabhupada elevated his daughters and granddaughters now to be equal. Now, that doesn't mean we mix freely. We still observe certain etiquettes. There's still some truths that woman's form disturbs the male eye. Male form disturbs the woman's mind. There's all kinds of truths about the interaction of the male form and the female form. That's part of knowledge, to know that and to protect yourself from being trapped by your senses and your mind. The eye wants to see the form of a woman if you're in a male body. And the male body that's what the eye of a woman wants to see. So wonderful. Go ahead, see it. Make that way, you can become very attached. Your next birth will definitely be in the body of a woman. All of you who become attached to looking at the form of a woman Congratulations. That's your next birth. Wonderful. Now, for the women, they may think, oh, let me get attached to a man. This is great. My next birth will be in a male body. That's not the purpose of the next birth. The next birth is not to plan, oh, a human body in this gender or in this nation or even a human, higher human on a, just so many planetary systems that are celestial compared to Earth. No, that's not the purpose of the next birth. The purpose of the next birth is to be eternally absorbed in Krishna, feeling his love, awakening your love so that your next birth is full of bliss. You don't care what body you have if you're full of bliss. You don't even think about what body you're going to get and where it's going to take its birth. If you wake up in a womb full of bliss, does any of that matter? That should be our goal. And that's how Prabhupada trained his daughters to make that their next birth. And that's how he trained his sons to make that our next birth. And do not fall victim to your senses. Because if you do, you haven't made it through Bhagavad Gita at all. You want to know, what do I read? Which should I read Chaitanya Charitamrita first? No, you really should read the Bhagavad Gita first. It will prepare you for all Vedic knowledge. If there's just one book in the world, let it be Bhagavad Gita as it is. Not Bhagavad Gita by anybody else, but the Bhagavad Gita as it is that made the world devotees. I'm just going to jump to a question you asked. Do you know how many devotees there are right now in Russia? Because you said things slowed down. I know you said that. You wanted to know why they seemed to slow down. We have at least 50 or maybe 70 temples in Russia. There's more than 100,000 Russian devotees. When Prabhupada was here, there were like 2 or 3. Does that sound like things slowed down? Now, wait. Do you know how many devotees there were in Ukraine before this crazy nonsense? Probably another 100,000 devotees in Ukraine. You know how many devotees there were in Poland? I mean, in different countries in Europe, that they just had a handful of devotees while Prabhupada walked the earth. But that seed that Prabhupada planted has been growing and growing all over. It's like a tree that's so tall that the branches keep growing and spreading across. They reach over on top of every country of the world. And then the tree has these amazing fruits that just fall down into those countries. And that's what Prabhupada planted. I promise you it's never going to slow down. Ever, ever, ever. Prabhupada saw a time when the whole world is going to be under a Krishna conscious government because the people of the world demanded such a government. That doesn't sound like it's going to slow down to me. It is immeasurable and almost inconceivable, the Bhakti Shakti, the energy of Lord Chaitanya that's in the holy names and in the Sankirtan Yajna and in the books, which are, by the way, Prabhupada said, the books are deities. They are the literary incarnation of God. And when we were having this marathon to print the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita, it was 17 volumes in 2 months. To do that, Prabhupada wanted it. We loved him so much, we said, we'll try. We'll just make it happen, Prabhupada, because you have told us we're idiots if we say something's impossible. So, okay, how dumb. You say to God or his representative that, oh God, this is impossible for you. I don't think anything is impossible for God. So we knew that we could do it. So everyone just stopped sleeping. I guess people went to the restroom. They stopped doing laundry. The whole temple of New Dwarka did their laundry, brought them food. If they needed toothpaste, the whole temple of New Dwarka was supporting these devotees who never left their workstations. They'd stay up until they fell asleep. Then they'd wake up and start again. And so I asked Prabhupada, with all these different types of work, this was pre-digital. Books were very manual, labor intensive back then. I said, Prabhupada, all these different categories of work, and we're doing it 20 hours a day, 22 hours a day. I can't even count. What category of devotional service is all of this? Each workstation, they're doing something so different. So I asked Prabhupada, what is this category of devotional service? And he answered, all of you are engaged in deity worship. The books are like deities, and you're dressing them, decorating them, waking them up, preparing them for their appearance in the world. You're artistically decorating them in so many ways. This is your deity worship. And then finally, you send the deity to a printer. And from that printer comes out the actual book, ready for the whole world to see. And when the whole world starts seeing the book, that is a different category of devotional service. That book distribution, which is the highest form of the Sankirtan Yogya, is now in the category of Shravanam Kirtanam. That's what book distribution is. So, why did I tell you that? Because we were trying to answer the question of why it slowed down. And I'm not sure it did. I'm not sure that there's so many devotees. How many devotees do you think there were in India that Prabhupada awakened before his disappearance? I don't know the number, but today there's probably 100 times, maybe even 1,000 times devotees in India that are genuine devotees that were not before. What Prabhupada did by going to the West and then coming back to India is he woke up India to what India had forgotten. Let's face it, India forgot. They had no idea what Vedic knowledge really was about. And if they did, they would have gone to the West themselves to spread it. So that's the proof they didn't understand the higher truths of the Vedas, because they were not going to the West and Europe and South America and Middle East and Africa to teach Krishna to the world. That means you didn't know Krishna. You had forgotten Krishna. Because if you knew Krishna, you'd be on Sankirtan in the world. You couldn't bear the thought of not saving souls everywhere. You couldn't bear it. Krishna is not just for India. Krishna is for every soul in the universe. He is the seed-giving Father to every living being in whatever species they inhabit. Krishna cares about every one of them. They're his children. We are his children. So I can tell you that Prabhupada once told me, it is the nature of the spiritual energy that it is always expanding, always increasing. not just in geography. It's always expanding in realizations of knowledge and its gifts. It's always expanding in bliss and ecstasy. And most important, it's always expanding in your love, in your heart, which you never had before. Whoever really knew love that never ends? You don't get that even from your daughter or son if you're a mother. You don't get it from your wife. You don't get it from your husband. Who else can people love? Their friends. You don't get unending love that increases in the feeling in your heart of love every moment. As soon as you look at it, it just increased again. You look at it again, it just increased again. Who ever heard of a love like that Prabhupada brought to this world? Because that's what Lord Chaitanya wanted Prabhupada to distribute. Prabhupada's secret weapon was knowledge and love. So there was a question about when I first met Prabhupada, why would I have any faith? Why would I surrender my whole life to him? I tried indirectly to just answer that. Everybody who's human is curious. You get so many questions. All the time we're asking questions, right? So Prabhupada, in his teaching, made us, Lord Chaitanya made us awaken our higher consciousness to realize that he's now showing us what spirit really is and how the material particles in the universe are not the cause of everything. They come because of spirit. I mean, Prabhupada descriptions of the universe blew our minds. And the idea that we could reincarnate and be in a higher species or go back into an animal or insect or bird or reptile body. I mean, this knowledge was just so overwhelming. So Prabhupada was like the emblem of perfect knowledge. So that was the thing that we all saw in Prabhupada. But, the famous but, Prabhupada awakened in everyone that came to him an experience of love that we never had with anybody else. We finally understood what the word love could mean. We got a taste of real love. Prabhupada would never stop loving us. If we make a place for him in our heart, he'll be there forever. That doesn't work with a son or daughter or wife or husband or mother or father or friend or anybody else. But it works with Prabhupada as it works with the Lord Paramatma. And he let us feel that. Lord Chaitanya woke us up to feel spiritual love. So if you want to know why we had so much faith in Prabhupada, because right from the beginning, this torchlight of knowledge and Krishna Prem, both were embodied in him and we were feeling it. We were sensing it. He was giving it to us and we were experiencing it. And there was, as far as we were concerned, the whole world is Krishna's property. Prabhupada send us anywhere. It's your father's property. We'll go anywhere you want and do anything you want us to do. Because we're your son and daughters. And you're teaching us that our eternal Father owns everything, is the proprietor of everything. And there's no boundaries. It's all his. So, of course, we can go anywhere and do anything for him. So that's what happened when we first met Prabhupada. That's why we gave up our whole life to him. That's why if he said he wanted to do something, we had no doubt that that would please Krishna, perfectly please Krishna. So naturally, we wanted to do it to be pleasing to Krishna. It just became a perfect relationship where Prabhupada knew exactly what Krishna wanted. He once described it to me as, imagine a amazing theatrical play, and all of you are the actors and actresses, but you don't know your lines. You don't know where you should stand. You don't know what you should say or do. I am the director of the play. I will teach you what to say, train you how to say it, place you here and there, and there will be this amazing global spiritual play that Prabhupada's directing. He wrote that to me, and we felt that. Even before he wrote it, that's how we thought. If you could imagine the world's greatest orchestra, symphonic orchestra, with more instruments than they ever have, creating the most beautiful sounds. And Srila Prabhupada, he's bringing it all together as the conductor and the composer all at once. So that's what we were experiencing. Now, somebody wants to know, how do I still, can that still be experienced? It's implied in some of your questions. Can you still experience that if Prabhupada's not visible to us? The answer is, Prabhupada said to us, I will never die. I am always present in each sound of each word of my books. And you can experience me in full by studying and reading my books and just believing I'm there in those words. I know Krishna. I discussed the selection of those words with Krishna. Now you read those words, you're associating with me and with Krishna. Just take those words into your mind, into your intelligence, and most important, take them into your heart. You will feel even more than what we felt. I say we being devotees that were helping Prabhupada in the early days. How do I know that? In 1973, we had just developed mass book distribution. And every day, Prabhupada was visiting LA. I was a Sankirtan leader. So every day, I'm writing a letter to Prabhupada with the names of the book distributors and how many books they distributed that day. And at the end of the day, maybe 9:30, 10 at night, I'm running over to Prabhupada's quarters. In LA Temple, Prabhupada's quarters were up one flight of stairs. Beautiful quarters. He had a sitting room where he did his translations. He had his bedroom where all the paintings from the Krishna book were there. He had his library room. I mean, it was just wonderful quarters. He had a kitchen. So I would bring this report, daily report, up and give it to Prabhupada's secretary, Brahmananda, or sometimes his servant, Shrutikirti, but mostly Brahmananda. And one day, Prabhupada took out his pen, and on the page of one of my daily reports, he wrote these words: "My dear boys and girls, you are sacrificing so much, tolerating going out into the material energy, being with the non-devotees, all of this. You're sacrificing everything to help distribute these books, to save these souls. This is the point. His next sentence. Surely my Guru Maharaj, that's my spiritual grandfather, his Guru Maharaj. Surely my Guru Maharaj will be pleased upon you 1,000 times more than me. And that is my satisfaction. So, to pick up from that, I have no idea who your Guru Maharaj might be. Now, in 100 years, there will be Guru Tattva. But I guarantee you, the difference between Prabhupada and Srila Bhakti 1,000 times more. Well, the difference between Prabhupada and any other guru 1,000,000 times more. So you're going to please Prabhupada 1,000,000 times more. He's your spiritual grandfather. Next generation, he's your spiritual great-grandfather. He is your eternal Siksha guru. You're going to get more mercy from the grandfather than from the father. Because the grandfather just loves to give. He's not that. He knows you're getting trained by your father, so now he's just giving. That's grandfather. Playing with you, giving you mercy. That's what you can expect from Prabhupada. You may not believe it, but if you truly study Bhagavad Gita carefully and any other books that you're reading, you'll begin to feel he's present. He's right here. Okay, I'm going to go to sleep, whatever I have to do tomorrow. I can't wait to wake up and see what Prabhupada's going to tell me next. I'll read another book page. It's like sitting with Prabhupada and he's telling you something new. And the day goes by, you go to sleep thinking, I can't wait to see what Prabhupada's going to tell me tomorrow. And you just read another page. And you'll begin to feel Prabhupada's talking to me personally. And I'm so excited to see what he's going to tell me tomorrow. And the next day. And the day after. That's the mood of reading Prabhupada's books. And as far as this quote, you can't understand Bhagavad Gita without Chaitanya Charitamrita. No, that's not accurate. What differentiates Lord Chaitanya from Krishna is that the Kali Yuga was so bad, so degrading, that Mahavishnu, the source of all the universes, who impregnates the jivas into them, he started looking at this Kali Yuga, Kala, and saying, this is impossible. These souls when they get a human body, it'll be useless. They're so degraded and polluted by the modes of nature. Lord Krishna, you have to come and do something. You said they first have to be thinking of you all the time and be your devotees so purely and rise above false ego, and then you'll free them from all their sinful reactions. So Lord Mahavishnu says to Krishna, that won't work. It worked when you said it. But here we are, 4,500 years later, that won't work anymore. That's how fast Kali Yuga ruined everybody. This Mahavishnu appeared in our earth as Advaita Acharya, saying this to Krishna. You have to come and you have to change what you said. Amend what you said in the Bhagavad Gita. So you have to awaken them even before they're thinking of you at every moment. You have to make them feel love for you even before they're qualified to be your devotees beyond the false ego. You have to give yourself for free. Can you do that? And Krishna said, yes. I will come to do that by delivering the Maha Mantra, and investing in the sound of those words and that mantra, everything you asked for can be achieved, and I'll give that for free. And all they have to do is sing 3 words. It's only 3 words: Hare Krishna and Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And so Lord Chaitanya agreed to go beyond, go to a level that Krishna didn't even go to, that no incarnation of Krishna ever went to. Lord Chaitanya is so special that when Rupa Goswami saw him, he immediately burst out, Namo Mahavadhanaya, Krishna Prem Pradayate, Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni, Gaura, you look like Radharani, Gaura, Tishe Namaha. That's what Rupa Goswami, the Gopi, said as soon as he saw Lord Chaitanya. This is, he couldn't believe. This is like Krishna, but Radha's inside you, and you're giving Krishna Prem, and you're not waiting for them to be qualified. You're not choosing, is it a woman or is it a man? What's a suitable time? What's a suitable place? You're making no rules. You're just giving Krishna Prem. This is Krishna in the mood of Radha, wanting to bring every soul to give Krishna more pleasure. Doesn't that sound like Radharani? She wants unlimited pleasure for Krishna. So when Radha is in Lord Chaitanya, he's assumed her mood. Now he's thinking, I want every soul. I'm offering them very tastefully. I'm going to bring them to Krishna to increase Krishna's rasas. So if there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of coward boys, now there'll be billions and billions and billions of coward boys. And if there's hundreds and hundreds of millions of gopis, now there'll be billions of gopis. This is how Lord Chaitanya is thinking, by collecting every soul in the universe to present and bring them to Krishna. And we are his tiny little instruments. Look what he left for us to do. It'll take more than one life to do it. Some of you, your next birth could be on the planet where Krishna is next appearing in a different universe. Some of you, your next birth could be in this universe, joining Prabhupada again. This is our future. And you can't even choose one better than the other. They're in the womb, you'll be given a body that's meant for this. Whatever one of those destinies you're supposed to have, you'll be given a body in the womb of your next mother, just designed for that alone. That's Prabhupada's gift. What a gift. How do we thank him? Had he not come, I'd be looking at samsara, dava, for 150 trillion more years, 100 trillion lives. That's what was facing me had he not come. How do you thank someone for saving you from that? How do you not fall in love with them for doing that and saving you from that future? Endless reincarnations. That's why the souls in the universe are called Nityabada. Always. Without being able to trace when it started, and you'll never be able to trace when it ends, you're conditioned souls. Suffering. You've been tossed in an ocean of misery, and each wave is another misery, and you're in this ocean. Sometimes you sink, and sometimes you rise up to the surface. You get another body, then you sink again. That was our eternal life until Prabhupada came from the spiritual world, bringing what he brought, bringing what Lord Chaitanya wanted him to give out for free. So that's a tiny little glimpse of who Prabhupada is. That's just the beginning glimpse. We sing at Guru Puja, Haha Prabhu Koradoya, Ebe Yasha, Gushuk Tribhuvana. Remember. So what does that mean? Ebe Yasha, Gushuk Tribhuvana. The denizens of the three worlds are stunned that Prabhupada came into their universe. They're stunned. They're so acknowledging him and worshiping him. He came from Goloka, which they can only hear about, and he entered their universe naturally. All the demigods, all the residents of all the planetary systems are just amazed that Prabhupada came into this universe. We sing that line every day during Guru Puja. Try to imagine what it really means. We don't see Narada. He's coming to see Prabhupada. Well, he did. When Prabhupada first took the Harinam out into the parks, one day he started chanting Narada. And they asked Prabhupada, why? He says, you did not see Narada came to see the fun? Narada came. I mean, Prabhupada can see everyone. He can see forms that are truly beyond our limited eyes to see. It's amazing who came while Prabhupada walked this earth to see him, to watch him, to just bask in his glow. We're just beginning to learn and explain who Prabhupada really is. So it's time that we thank you for your keen association and interest in hearing about Prabhupada and what it was like and what it's going to continue to be like and how this movement will never stop growing, ever. That's the future that Prabhupada brought. That's what he's awakening on the earth. So thank you all very, very much for helping each other to love Prabhupada and get this knowledge gift from Prabhupada. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha, kripa sindhubhya eva cha, patitanan pavanebhyo, vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada's followers, disciples, grand disciples, students, and those benefiting from him. He jai. Thank you so much for hearing this. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. One of the things that Prabhupada taught me and others is what you just did, to pass it immediately, instantly to Prabhupada. It's not from anyone other than what you just did. If I was proper, pure enough, it already went to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. We don't keep for ourselves.